Hey, welcome to First AI. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to look at how to use n8n to replace Canva Autofill with Google Slides. Okay, before we even start with Google Slides, you're going to have to first create your design in Canva, unless you want to do it in Google Slides, which I find a little bit restrictive. So I went and created my design in Canva, and then I downloaded it as an image. And then I came back to Google Slides, where I made it the background. Before we get to all of that, we need to design the template regarding size and dimension. In the template, you have to go to Files, then down to Page Setup. In Page Setup, you click on that, after which you go to the Custom area. You put in the dimensions you want. In this case, it's an Instagram post, which has those dimensions, 1080 by 1350. So those are the dimensions that I had to put in there. Then I clicked Apply, and I got my dimensions. That is what it looked like after which I uploaded the image which I had downloaded from Canva. This is the image of the design I had created there. So I just inserted it in and then made it a background so that it would fit perfectly. Then I went back to Canva and collected the text which I had used in my template that I had designed there. I wanted to match it to what I had in Google Slides. Text would come up better if I just copied it from Canva and then pasted it in Google Slides. So that is exactly what I did. And then moved it around a bit to fit into the box where I wanted it to be. And after this, I just had to go in and replace that text with the placeholder. I sometimes like to go in and change the font to Poppins because it looks better to me. And I did that in this case as well. After that, I put in the placeholder, and you have to put it in curly brackets, a single pair of curly brackets. You leave it exactly as you want it to appear from n8n. So this is the workflow that we shall be using. We set a trigger node. I'll be just setting the manual trigger for now. And after setting the manual trigger node, you put in the configuration node. And we'll be changing a few things about this later, but you name it, and then after naming it, you could put the configurations. In some cases, it will be more than one set of words that you want to replace, in which case the configuration will have multiple sets of words. But in this case, for simplicity's sake, we shall be replacing just one set of words, and this is what I'm copying into the configuration node. And then after, obviously, you activate it, let it run, and you'll be seeing your results there. The next thing you're going to do is put in a copy node from Google Drive, and you're going to go to the left. You're going to click that plus sign, then it will show you the menu over there, and then you will click on it and type in Drive, then click on the Google Drive node and click on the copy node. You have to provide some form of identification for the template that you're trying to use, and I used ID instead of URL or list. I went to my template and I copied the ID. It is between those two slashes. I don't remember what the technical name for them is, but it's between those two. Like, I copied it there, and then I came back, I put it in there. Remember, it has to be ID over here on the left. And then you have to name the file, what you want your file to be named when it comes out. For me, I just put in a random name, and then I added now to ensure that there is no duplication, so that each time it runs, it will have a timestamp so that there is no chance of duplication at all. And then I ran it and I got back my ID. And then the next step is to put in the replacement node. You get it by going into the Google Drive menu in n8n. You have then to map in the ID from the previous node. It's right there, map it in. And after mapping it in, you have to enter the parameters that you need to replace, which I find is safer if you go back to your template and copy the text that you put in as a placeholder, the placeholder text, and then you go back and paste it in. You paste it right there, and in the next field, you map in the text that you want to replace it with. In this case, that was the text I wanted to replace it with. When you click execute, you're going to get back that information, which means that your template has been filled and created, and that is the document ID of the basically the new document, all the new design that you wanted to create. The next thing I did for my own convenience was to put in a set node, and then I decided to configure it in such a way that it will give me the document URL. And I did it by combining these two things, half of the standard Google Drive URL plus the document ID. If I copy it from the set node and then I paste it into a browser like that, it's going to bring me back the finished new design, just like this. And it takes a few seconds to load for some reason. I don't know if it was just today. I've never experienced that before. It takes a few seconds to load, but you get back the finished new template, the finished new design. The other thing I wanted to do was to automate it a bit further by giving it an agent that will be creating the quotes. So this agent is going to be very rudimentary. The prompting is going to be really, really basic, just for the sake of creating sample codes and showing how it works. But if you need something more refined, you're going to do a lot more prompting, not the kind that I did with this test. So you add the usual things that you need to add. You add the brain. In this case, I used ChatGPT. That will be creating the quotes. And then I also decided to attach some memory. Memory is going to ensure that it does not repeat the previous quotes, but I find the most reliable way to handle this is set up a Google Sheet before and then ensure that it gets the information, all the previous quotes in from that Google Sheet, and it tells this agent that these are the previous quotes we have, we shouldn't use them again. But this is something I'm building really, really quickly, so I won't be doing that. And regarding the memory, I just put in run index to give it an ID that refreshes every time that it runs. Don't mind it. Don't mind the run index. It's pretty easy to put in. I've shown how I did that. And then I also put in, I wanted to return something that is already formatted to be used in the next node, so that I don't have to handle that another way. So I put in that formatter. And what the formatter is going to do is force the output to be in that structure. I gave it some really, really basic JSON, and then I renamed it. And after renaming it, I decided to test what it's going to look like. But before that, I wanted to add a little bit more instruction regarding the length, so that it doesn't overflow the template. And that is what I did here. And then I decided to detach it a bit so that I can execute the agent to see if it's working well and what kind of output it will give me. And it gave me the correct output, so I just replaced the data that was in the configuration node with the output of the agents. I mapped it in there. And then that was done. I rearranged things around a bit, simply because I could, or whatever in my head told me I should. And then I went to saving again, since n8n doesn't do it on its own. And then I decided to execute it, the whole workflow all over again, to see how that would go. And hopefully, I was hoping it would work and there is nothing else to fix, which it did. It worked this time. Then I went in and I copied the URL of the new design, put it in my browser, and rightfully it brought back the new design with the new code. So everything is working perfectly. Everything is working exactly as it should. The codes are a bit very, very poor quality codes, but this is just something that is rudimentary that I haven't refined. I'm focusing on whether or not it works. By the way, I have used this to create other things like full LinkedIn carousel and other carousels. It works just as well with a little bit more elaboration. And I was showing here how you can make it a bit more advanced. You could just go to the system prompt area and give it a stronger system prompt. That is what I was doing there. And then I wanted to show you that you can make the memory so much longer so that it remembers more of the codes that it has done before so as not to repeat them. Another thing that is necessary is to add the type of trigger that will actually make it go off, that can be scheduled or something like that. So I added the schedule trigger because with the manual trigger you cannot activate the workflow, and that is why I needed to put in another trigger. I disabled the manual trigger so that only the schedule trigger would work. You can just go into the schedule trigger and just decide when you want your workflow to run.